Well, we are live.
Boom, ba, boom, boom, ba. The only dance I know is the white man shuffle.
Hi, folks. Geoff and I are here, and we're going to be talking general strikes tonight. But first, we'll do a little sharing, okay, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Bird says, live and well. That's wonderful, Jim. It's great to see you.
It's definitely good to be live and well. It's a good combination. I like that.
So do I. So do I. Now, let's hope we all can stay that way for the next 6 months or so. It's probably going to take them at least that long to complete vaccinations.
Yep.
Off to a terrible start. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
We can certainly see it. I'm going to quiet this so we get less extraneous noise here.
I know a number of my friends have already got the vaccine, thank God.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because healthcare workers.
Yeah.
Healthcare workers get it first, as should be the case. We ran into a news item, though, today that healthcare workers, including doctors in the Riverside area in California,
Mm-hmm.
are thinking they don't want to take the vaccine right now.
Yeah.
They want to wait a while, which is certainly different.
I am all for better therapeutics. I am all for making sure that we learn how to take care of patients with COVID, that we learn more about it. But I had two major concerns about the vaccine. The first was how fast it was coming online. But then I talked to an epidemiologist friend of mine, and she basically explained to me that most vaccines take the time they take, anywhere from 2 to 10 years to be approved, not because of how long it takes to develop the vaccine, but because of how long the process is in red tape and funding. And a lot of these companies run into cash flow shortages. They have to go fundraising. They have to find the cash. Then they got to go through the red tape of, this, that, and the other. So what she told me is that this vaccine really shows what we can do when money is no object, and we can get rid of all the red tape, which is great news when you consider all the problems that we have in healthcare, in housing, in green energy, all the things that we could do if money were no object and red tape was, cut away to be able to get something done quickly.
Yeah, and that was certainly the hopeful thing about, if there was anything hopeful about the pandemic, okay, it was that. But, of course, then there were all the other matters.
Of course, there's never been a blessing that did not come with a curse. Yeah.
No, this one came with a big, big curse, boy.
Yeah. So I got a lot of hopes for the vaccine. I would like Bill Gates to not be associated with it in any way, shape, or form. I loathe and despise Pfizer, but at the end of the day, I've been saying for years we don't have time to get everything that we want. And if the worst thing that happens, for example, with the Green New Deal, is that ExxonMobil is the one that we invest all the money in to convert them to 100% green energy and yada, yada, yada. And they're the poster boys for green energy. And we get to live, I could live with that.
I could live with that too.
Yeah, I don't want it to be that way. Yeah. But I could live with it. So,
of course.
If Pfizer has to be the one to be with the pandemic, I don't like it, but I can live with it.
And so
yeah.
Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay, I'm about done. I did share it to a few places, and hopefully We are ready to go fully live.
Hmm.
I,
Hello.
ho ho, yes. I will take so we get that promo away. That feedback was from Facebook, which I knocked out.
Yeah.
So we should not have it any longer. And I'll take the promo away. And there we are, you and I,
Yay!
full talking heads view. So,
Joe.
we have convened here today to discuss general strikes
Yes.
as a tool for the progressive movement. And so, Geoff, I think you wanted to do a little bit of a presentation.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that I want to say right off the top. First and foremost, no one should believe that a general strike is going to happen immediately. No one should be thinking it's going to be any fun to live through. Let's be very clear about this. We are talking about making some incredibly important and powerful people uncomfortable, and that only happens when we bring massive amounts of pressure. And in order to do that, we have to make ourselves uncomfortable. So I want to say that right off the top. Nothing that I'm about to present should be considered to be easy or fun. It's just that nothing else has worked. We've tried everything else under the sun. And the only things in history that I can point to that did move the needle in a substantial way, and relatively speaking, quickly, were the mass movements of the turn of the last century. The suffragettes, the labor movements, the anti-war movements, the civil rights movements. These people fought hard. They suffered. Many went to jail and many were killed. But we all enjoy the fruits of their labor. We all enjoy the fruits of their suffering. And then we turned our backs on it in the 1970s. And
We did.
and big time in the 1980s. So I'm all for blaming your politicians. I am known the world over as screaming at politicians. I got no problems with that. I am all for blaming corporations and blaming media. They all have culpability. But at the end of the day, they're all doing what they do. A fox is a fox, and you should expect it to act like one. And when you put it in charge of the hen house, the chickens are not going to be safe. The foxes will feast. That is the nature of the beast. That is what we should be taking away and learning and understanding over the last 50 years. You don't go to the Democratic Party expecting you're going to reform the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party will reform you or it will marginalize you. There's no third option. Right? So what we need is a general strike. What does this look like? What I'm envisioning, starting off small to be sure, but organize in your neighborhoods, organize in your workspaces, start getting people to understand that in order for us to have what we need, we have to combine collectively behind ideas, not around politicians. That leads to hero worship and fans. And then you will very easily go down that slippery slope of defending these people, giving them the benefit of the doubt. Give them time. They're working on it. I trust them. No more dangerous words have ever been spoken in this country than I trust my government to. For so long as the government is controlled by oligarchs, there is nothing more dangerous than that. When we do, in fact, have a government of, for, and by the people, then you can start trusting the government because you're trusting yourself. You have taken on the role and the mantle of government, participatory democracy. Before that happens, don't trust anyone in government. Don't trust anyone in media. They're all owned and controlled by the same people. So be very careful. So what we're going to have to do is put aside this idea that electoral politics is going to save us. Put aside the idea that identity politics is going to save us. Those are the only things that have been on tap, the only things that have been on offer for the last 50 years. And look at where we are. We're all on the razor's edge, just waiting to be pushed off in any direction. And it's it. We're toast. So we have to do the one thing: start organizing a strike. Look at what happened in Chicago teacher strike. Look at what happened in West Virginia. They had the entire state striking for teachers, and they won. These were illegal strikes.
Yes.
One of the things,
won.
yeah, and we won. So when we're talking about how difficult it can be to organize, ignore that. Ignore how difficult it can be and just do it. I'm not saying don't be prepared for it. What I mean when I say ignore it is don't let that be a deciding factor. The fact that something is going to be hard, let it be a challenge, but don't let it be a determining factor. We are the reason it's going to be hard because we stood down for 50 years. We are the reason why we are on attack on so many different fronts, because we took care of nothing. We've shifted our focus from class consciousness, over to the important but less easily attainable identity politics. Oh, I want to see a woman in power. Great. You got Hillary Clinton, and she's bombed more people than anyone else. I want to see, some.
Avril Haines is going to be in power pretty soon.
Yes, and we're going to get Neera Tanden in the cabinet, in charge of OBO. Jesus fucking Christ. It's not about man, woman. It's not about black, white. It's about rich, poor. It's about haves, have-nots. Those are the class consciousness, when we realize it, are the ones that have actually changed things for the better, for the most people. And I get, that all these different movements I outlined, the women's liberation, the anti-war, the civil rights, the labor movements, none of them were all inclusive.
Right.
But all of them.
For a moment. Okay. Let's
Yes.
get back to general strikes.
Yes.
Okay.
But
now
all of them.
Movement. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a movement.
Mm-hmm.
And we have lots of tools the movement can use.
Yes.
So where do general strikes fit into the context of all the various tools the movement can use?
The biggest thing that a general strike is going to be able to do is to shut down the economy, as much of it as we possibly can. When we talk about the labor movements, they actually physically barricaded themselves in their factories. They took over the factories. So the people who own the factories got no profit. They earned nothing. They were hemorrhaging money because the workers decided that no, you will make no money, you will make no profits, until such time as our demands are heard and met. So
that was those kinds of actions were strikes.
Yes.
When we talk about a general strike
is more
something much bigger.
We're talking about industries, defending one another. Okay, I would never be the one to say that nurses should strike. However, because we don't want nurses to strike, other organizations should strike. In solidarity with what nurses are going through.
Absolutely.
Because when we talk about we can't get anything done because of Mitch McConnell. Okay, fine. We can pressure Mitch McConnell. We can picket his house. We can basically occupy his offices, occupy his spaces. And if that doesn't work, someone somewhere talks to Mitch, whether it be other people in his Republican cabinet, whether it be, rich donors, whether it be oligarchs, someone somewhere is able to put pressure on him. So we have to put pressure on those people.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what a general strike is. You put as much generalized pressure on the entire system in solidarity with one another. You know, we don't quit until nurses get what they need. We don't quit until dock workers get what they need. We don't quit until we have Medicare for all. We don't quit until we have no more fossil fuel usage. We keep going, and it's going to ebb and flow. And there's going to be days when we just want to fucking die. And there's days when we're going to feel like we're walking on air. But we have to start now to play a long game, you know, with multiple short wins. You know,
Okay, so have you talked to Arakel Bloss?
no, I haven't been able to get in contact. You know, there's been a lot of people I'm trying to organize a general strike with, and I'm hitting a dead end everywhere I go. Everyone says yes, we got to do it. I say okay, let's organize. Chirp 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 chirp. You know, there's a lot of organizations that want to do it, and
she has a website called General Strike.
yeah, you know, I've seen it.
I think she's been trying to organize one. Why has it been difficult to contact her?
I don't know. You know, I send out emails on their webpage, and I don't get anything back. I keep trying, you know, and I will keep trying. But again, I don't need to be the one that does this. I'm a little pissed off that I feel like I'm the one that has to do this, you know. But it's got to get done. It's got to get done.
Have you tried to friend her on Facebook?
I don't think I have, actually. I'd have to go through my friend requests. I don't think I have. But I will try again. But again, it's got to be bigger, you know, than any one organization. It's got to be all the organizations.
Oh, I know.
You know?
I know it has to be. But she is. She's obviously interested in organizing.
Yeah. And I would love to help, you know, in whatever large or small way I can, because I'm tired of hearing about AOC and the squad. I'm tired about hearing about Mitch. I'm tired about hearing about Trump, and I'm really fucking tired about hearing about Biden. None of these people are heroes. None of these people are going to be able, even if they wanted to, they are incapable of doing what we sent them to do under the strictures that they are currently governed under. And if they are unwilling to throw off the shackles of those strictures and incite people to not to riot, but to strike, their power is resting in our hands. We will never have our hands directly on the levers of power, but we must be able to directly control the people that do have their hands directly on the levers of power. So AOC on the squad should never have been expected to go in and do the things they ran on. They should have been expected to try, and they didn't. But I don't blame them. I blame us for not having their back, for not organizing ourselves into a powerful force that will embolden those very few in Congress who may want to do what we need to and scare the living shit out of the people in Congress who don't want to do what we need them to do.
Right.
That's what I want.
Saying that one way to back them up, okay, and to get them to have leverage,
yes,
is to do a general strike.
Yes. You know, in addition to making sure that they, just like anyone else, know our love for you is very conditional. You know, you ain't my kids. You know, my kids screw up, I will love them. You screw up,
I'm not going to love you.
No, I will drop you and replace you like that. That is the fear that must rest in their eyes. Means I don't ever tell you that I'm voting for you. I never, ever try to get someone to vote for you. I'm trying to get people to say to whomever is running, to whomever is occupying that office, Medicare for all. You're not going to do it? Excellent. We're coming to your office. We're shutting down the economy. We are doing whatever we have to do, short of violence, because that's really what I'm after here. I'm after short of violence. While we can still do that, while that's still a possibility, But if you're not for Medicare for all, if you're not for a Green New Deal, you are not an ally. You are not on my side. I don't have to play nice with you. I'm going to play hardball. And here's 360 million friends who also don't want to play nice with you. We're not taking no for an answer. I don't give a shit what you said on the campaign trail. I wasn't even paying attention because I'm going to give the same message to you as any other schmuck that was stupid enough to want to hold your office. You're going to do what we tell you to do. Don't look to the oligarchs. Fuck them. They had their time. I hope they enjoyed it. Now,
It's our time.
it is our time. If we take it. If we don't, well, American Idol is on. I hope you enjoy it. You know,
I don't watch American Idol. I don't watch any of that stuff.
whatever show floats your boat. You know? But yeah, you know, we are either going to seize this moment or we're not. And at every opportunity, I see moments and moments and moments, and they keep coming. And as a movement, we drop the ball. We drop the ball. We drop the ball. You know, we have opportunities. We're not failing to have a constant supply of opportunities, but we are eventually going to run out of time. You know.
Okay, so how are you going to organize a general strike?
I don't know. That's one of the reasons I'm on here. I want people to come out of the woodwork. I want people who tell me they like the idea of a general strike to stop talking about doing a general strike and start organizing for it.
Okay, but don't you have to organize a general strike around certain issues?
That's
certain
the
symbols,
yes.
certain
If you,
tags.
yes. You know, if you
Self-organization.
You know, quite honestly, you know, I want to keep it simple. You know, and if you look at, you know, right now, I'm on a personal campaign. Anytime a political pundit says anything that is in any way, shape, or form a platitude, which is just about all they ever say, you know, I don't comment bitching at them and yelling and screaming and saying this, that, and the other. I just post a list of issues and with a little blurb at the end, just bringing the focus back to the only thing that's going to save our lives, issues. I'm trying to get people to realize that you need to stop paying attention to what they say because they're not saying anything anyway. They're not saying anything important. They're saying things that we don't need to listen to. So if their mouth is moving, just post issues. You know, get the conversation around issues. Get people talking about issues. So when we get a general strike, yes, we should keep it simple. We need Medicare for all. We're in a fucking pandemic. That's an easy ask. It should be easy to get done if we mobilize around it. We don't have a choice. We need a Green New Deal. If someone else wants to come up with a different plan that does the same thing, I'm open to that too. At a certain point, we got to stop doing that and just pick one and run with it. But we don't even have the momentum, the actual momentum. Interest, yes. I could walk into Tiffany's right now and say, I'm interested in buying all these things, but I don't got the cash, so what the hell does my interest mean? I'm talking about I want people for a Green New Deal with cash on hand, baby, out in the streets, get it done. And you don't go home. And then we have to organize these people so that they can walk off the job and walk down to DC. You know, we got to provide them with shelter. We got to provide them with food. We got to provide them with housing. These people are going to be in deep shit. These are going to be illegal strikes. So some people can strike and we got to support them. Some people can't. But those people who can't are in a position to support those who can.
Okay, so we got a question from Carmen.
Yeah.
Who asks, doesn't the general strike involve groups and crowds, or can you just stay home safe from COVID?
Yes, you absolutely can. The first thing and the most important thing about a general strike is that we shut down production. Okay? So if everyone was involved, like literally everyone was involved, except for the oligarchs who don't work anyway, they just collect checks. But if everyone just stayed home, well, there's going to be no one in any factories, no one in any restaurants, no one in any stores, no one is buying anything. The banks will be empty. If everyone did just that, we would win, you know. But of course, not everyone is going to, and not everyone is going to be able to. Not everyone's going to be able to just walk off the job. We're asking people to be fired. We're asking them to no longer have a paycheck. So that's why some of us are going to have to work and some of us are going to have to not, so that we have a nonstop, visible presence everywhere we go. But we have enough people working to be able to help with cash assistance for these people that we have asked to sacrifice. We're also going to need to organize lawyers to work pro bono, because a lot of people are going to get arrested. We're going to have to organize healthcare. It's going to take a huge organization, and we can start small. Just look at what the teachers did in West Virginia and Chicago and Oklahoma. That was one industry. They organized, they had some people supporting them, and they won. Now, what would have happened if we hadn't dropped the ball at that point, realized the power that this has, and then, well, let's shut something else down, and then let's shut something else down, and then shut something else down, and slowly by surely, then you keep going. Yeah. So again, it's too much to ask, I think, that we're going to do general strike next Monday. But if we start talking seriously about how to do it, at the very least, as we start to organize, we would be able to pounce upon the next opportunity. If teachers go on strike in Tennessee, we'd be able to support that and, strengthen it, and then get other industries, maybe just within Tennessee, okay, fine. If the teachers are going on strike, then hospitality goes on strike as well. And if hospitality goes on strike, well, then we're going to have restaurants. No one's going to restaurants anymore. Bring pressure to bear upon whatever powers that be need to be, brought to heel, quite honestly. And then let that spread to other states. And then eventually we shut down ports of entry. And then eventually we're shutting down borders. Eventually we bring so much pressure that the powers that be have no other choice. They're either going to see the writing on the wall and, give in early to things that really should be a no-brainer, like Medicare for all. Who knows what we can do? We can dream and we can think big, but if we're not acting, all we're doing is dreaming and thinking big and waiting for someone else to act.
We'll never get anything done.
Yeah, so that's what I'm looking for. I'm here for a plea to get people more active. I don't know how to get started, but I'm happy to talk with anyone that does, and let's get it done. Let's stop waiting for someone else to do it first.
Let's get it done. Let's get it done. It's my name.
Hallelujah, baby. Can I get a witness?
Online handle. Hey, Johnny Hill, you still here?
Johnny! Old Joe Hill, rise up.
No, this is Johnny Hill. It's not
Old
Joe Hill,
I know. But since we're talking about labor and strikes, Joe Hill.
Yep. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of my favorite songs is a song by Steve Earle, Christmas Time in Washington. Joan Baez does a version of it that I really love, and my wife absolutely hates it.
How's it go?
It's Christmas time in Washington. The Democrats rehearse, singing 4 more years. Oh, damn, I forgot the words. Anyway, if you look it up, Joan Baez does the version that I love. Steve.
It's Christmas Time in Washington.
Christmas Time in Washington. I absolutely love it. It was written in 96 when Clinton won his second election. And here's this guy, Steve Earle, writing about how he genuinely feels through all this jubilant, exaltation that, Clinton won and where things are going great. He actually understands that everything's going to hell. So his refrain is, come back, Woody Guthrie, come back to us now. Tear your eyes from paradise and rise again somehow. It's brilliant.
That's a great line. That's a great line.
Yeah, it's a great line.
Okay, so what are we going to do about a money pool for the strikers? How are we going to create one of those?
That quite honestly, we already kind of have it, don't we? GoFundMe. We can start a GoFundMe page. For general strikes, just basically asking for nickels and dimes. 360 million people. I'm sure we can scrape up enough money just to make sure that people live through it. Again, I'm not suggesting for a second that this is going to be easy to live through. The people in the 1920s did not have a good time. The people in the 1930s, the 1940s did not have a good time. No one in the civil rights movements, the anti-war movements, none of them were having a good time. This is not summer camp, but we are talking about life and death. So, yeah, we're probably not going to be able to raise that much money. Certainly not enough to make sure that everyone that walks off the job is going to be able to keep their house. But maybe they'll be able to make sure that they have shelter. People that can't offer money can offer a room to rent or a room to let. We're trying to build solidarity, and that means that everyone sacrifices. Like I said,
solidarity is the key.
Yes, with everyone.
Working together is the most important thing.
Yes.
And caring about each other.
Yes.
They work together, but they care about each other.
Mm-hmm.
They stand up for one another. That is what solidarity means.
Yes, and that means caring for people that you used to fight with, because if we actually do a general strike, we got to remember why so many people voted for Donald Trump. There were a lot of economically depressed people, who have been living through generation after generation of losing more and more and more. So if we're doing a general strike, we need them on board. And if some of them need money, cash assistance, if some of them need a room to live in so they can help with the cause, get it done. Get it done.
Right. So Sam Hollenbeck asks, or states, well, he states and then he asks, there will be probably a lot of right-wingers
Yes.
that be absolutely furious with us for hurting their precious economy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wait a minute. I'll put this up so everybody can see it.
Yeah.
How will we defend ourselves from the propaganda and threats of violence?
Well, again, Sam, I do appreciate that question. And again, I don't have answers, But what I will say is what I'm hoping to do is to get this done before it becomes violent en masse. That does not mean that there will not be violence. That does not mean that people are not going to get hurt. That does not mean that people are not going to die.
There will certainly be violence on the part of the police.
Yes, absolutely.
Probably right from the get-go. They'll be trying to provoke us into violence so they can use the mass media against us.
Well, that's another thing. We're talking about the mass media. We're going to have to be very, very focused and liberal in our use of our phones and our cameras and getting content up on independent media, because one of the reasons we did not really jump on the strikes in Chicago and Oklahoma and West Virginia is because you didn't hear that much about it on mainstream media. A little bit here, a little bit there, but really down low. They did not advertise and broadcast not only the fact that these things were happening, but what they actually accomplished, what they won. So you're absolutely right, Sam. There is going to be right-wingers who are going to be mad at us, but there are also going to be right-wingers who will join us. There are going to be people of all walks of life, from every corner, if we do this, and we show that we have resolve, if we show that we actually have backbone and we're not backing down, that this is actually real. The more we make that true, the more we're going to have people on our side.
Yes.
And when it comes down to violence, which there's absolutely going to be, I have to expect it. So we will have to, again, use solidarity and protect each other to the best of our ability.
Okay, and so Carmen says we'll have to beware not to get hit with the racketeering or inciting a riot.
Yeah.
If we start a strikers fund, we'll need a proxy cause and code language.
I like that.
suggestion.
No,
Interesting
I
suggestion.
dig that. When she's talking about code language, I'm assuming she's talking about ways in which we can communicate with each other over social media that won't be obvious to law enforcement, or
Yeah.
other such individuals, which again, absolutely have to do, just like they did, at the turn of the last century, all the way through up to the civil rights movements and women's liberations movements of the 60s and 70s. They definitely had to use coded language because they knew that the local law enforcement and the FBI were listening. So yes, we're going to have to organize around that.
Yes.
And more importantly, Carmen and Sam, we're going to lose. We're going to lose quite often. We're going up against some very powerful machines. The hallmark of this movement is not succumbing to the pain and the grief of losing from time to time, because
Yeah.
we're also going to win, and we're going to win a lot. But we won't win that much, if at all, if we give up at the first sign of distress, at the first
We
sign of...
probably won't win at all at first.
Yes, it's going to be hard. And you're absolutely right. The media will, the media will feel threatened. They will absolutely, they're going to call
Well,
us socialists.
I think I know a way to make them feel even more threatened.
Good. What is it?
We could start our general strike with them.
I started that a long time ago. I am the local captain in chapter, fuck the mainstream media.
Okay, so Austin Bradford says, right, what if we combine aid with a strike? Okay, in
Yeah.
other words,
Yeah, that's the idea.
We do a mutual aid thing and we combine it with a strike.
Yeah.
Yes, that is what we're suggesting.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're suggesting. Because so someone, and I mentioned this because someone had mentioned to me, it feels like it was only a couple of days ago, but I've hardly gotten any sleep. It was probably a week ago, where she was specifically talking about how so many of us can't strike. We're paycheck to paycheck. And to which I basically replied to her as I replied to you. Yes, some people can't strike. Some people shouldn't strike. But those people are going to be in a position to help and care for financially, to whatever degree they can, or hospitality-wise, a meal here or there. Everyone can give something. No one is, and we are asking a lot. We are asking people to go to jail. When we're calling for a general strike, whether it's in your heart or not, whether it's in your mind or not, you are asking people to go to jail. And you are, and we got to be honest about this, you are asking people to get beat up. You are asking people to die. There's no two ways around this. But look at it this way. We're dying anyway.
Already.
45 to 70,000 people.
Every year, yes.
Yeah.
45 to 70,000 people just because of the lack of insurance.
Yes.
Then, as a point you've often made, is there are hundreds of thousands, of others who are dying due to the medical care system.
Yes.
Itself.
The third leading cause of death, is medical errors in hospitals, which is a direct line to for-profit health care.
Yes.
So if we're dying already, suicides are on the rise again this year.
Yes.
If we're dying anyway, shouldn't we make it count for something? Because right now we're dying for nothing. Absolutely nothing. Except to make Jeff Bezos richer than he was 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, we're dying for living, basically.
Yes. So every time you say you're asking me to suffer and to die, I'm saying you're going to suffer and die anyway. Make it count for something. Make this one count. Because we're losing.
So Ginter says we might be better off warning people months ahead 6 months ahead so they can save up for a general strike.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, in the beginning, this isn't going to happen overnight, but it's going to take organization, preparation, as we go through preparations A through G, eventually preparation H is going to fix this problem. But, yes, so we're definitely going to have to hit the ground running when the time comes. But that time is never going to come if we don't start planning now. And that includes saving your pennies, organizing your communities, who can put people up, who can afford, to go out of work, who's got some savings. We are asking a lot. There's no getting around that. And yes, we should plan in advance to make it the most effective. But as I said also, when we start planning, we'll be in a position to start jumping on opportunities as they arise. Should another strike, a wildcat strike, break out, we'll be in a position to maximize that opportunity, which will never happen if we don't start organizing now.
And so Carmen is pointing out that the gilets jaunes lose eyes and limbs every day. But they do have their medical taken care of. France,
yes, they do.
Does have medical for everybody.
Yep.
It's one thing they have that we don't.
Which isn't going to replace the eye, but at least you won't lose your house because you lost your eye. And again, I can't say this often enough. Part of the organization is going to be organizing medical staff. Organizing doctors and nurses and EMTs who are going to be able to scrounge together equipment to be able to help people triage them in the field. It's going to be difficult. We are going to be asking a lot of people. And just in doing so, a lot of medical professionals might lose their jobs. Hopefully not, since we need medical professionals, maybe that would be a saving grace. Maybe they would just get a slap on the wrist. Who knows? But yeah, we're going to have to organize medical staff as well, to get medical help to those that will be impacted physically by a general strike.
So, Geoff, your picture is frozen.
Yours was frozen for a while.
Was it? Oh, that's it.
It's not me. It's you.
Okay. Can you see me now?
Yeah, I can see you. I can see you fine now. All is good.
But you're still frozen.
But can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, and it's wonderful.
What else is important? You don't need anything more than my voice. Joe, I am your father.
Carmen says, medics are stressed to the max currently. COVID needs to go away.
Yeah. Again, not suggesting this happened today. By the time we finish organizing and working out how we're going to do this, hopefully, COVID is not a problem. If this were happening today, yeah, medics are definitely stressed. And this would be yet one more. But again, when we do the general strike, things are going to get stressful. That can't be a reason we stop. It's just simply can't. It's going to be hard. There's going to be pain and misery. But we're going to make that pain and misery worthwhile by sticking it out and winning the war, even if we lose some battles.
Yep. And, of course, this probably has to begin to happen fairly soon because we are running out of time to meet the climate emergency. We don't have any more years.
Yeah, we've wasted a lot of them. Just from the time the IPCC report was issued. At that time, we had 12 years to come up with and implement a plan just to get to carbon neutral.
And now we have more like 9 years, and the IPCC report was too optimistic.
Yes.
Probably isn't 9 years. It's probably more like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And we haven't really started yet.
I haven't found what they were talking about, but I know that Crystal Ball on the Hill was saying that there were some members of the business community, Wall Street, to be more specific, that were actually starting to wake up to the idea that climate change is real, and they were losing their hair because it's a financial problem. They were going to lose trillions of dollars in actual assets and property and other such things. So it's only a financial problem. Forget about how many people are going to die. But
We have a point from concerning a general strike, okay, and it's by Russell Gorman. Okay, Russell says a general strike for someone who is self-employed is kind of antithetical.
Yes. Again, not everyone is going to be able to. Not everyone should. There's going to be a lot of things to consider. We don't need everyone to strike. We need as many people as possible. And then we need everyone else to support those.
Yes. People who are self-employed sometimes are in a position to support others.
Yes.
And when they are in that position, we need them to do that.
Yes. But again, self-employed people, are, there's an old expression that we're all in the same boat. We're not all in the same boat. There's someone, I can't remember who said this. I want to be able to give credit where credit is due because it's not my expression. But we're not all in the same boat. We are all in the same storm. And some people are in a yacht, and some people are in a rowboat. Some people are hanging on to a piece of driftwood, and some people are just treading water. You're not in the same boat, but we all are in the same storm. And if we want to all survive that storm, we're going to have to pull together, and that means sacrifice. So if you're self-employed and just find your niche, where are you going to be able to fit in a general strike? Can you afford to strike? Do so. Can you not? Okay, what can you do? If the only thing you can do is provide food and shelter and maybe some monetary compensation to those who are, then you are in solidarity.
Yes, you are.
So it's not about what you do per se. It's about, are you doing something to support that cause? And is the result of that enough people in the streets and shutting down enough of the economy to cause the chaos and ruckus that we need to be able to change the system, because we need to change it?
Yes. So Carmen says, call the general strike something else. Something like the yellow light movement, or whatever fits the script.
Fair enough. I'm not married to the idea of general strike. It is trending. I'd hate to lose that momentum. As much as I dislike Bill Maher in the last 15 years, when I first knew of him, he doesn't return my phone calls. When I first heard about him in the early 90s and doing his stand-up, he took an issue with something that I think is very applicable to this idea. Call something what it is. He used the expression of spousal abuse. It's wife beating. You cannot call something a kind thing, spousal abuse. It sounds polite, but you're a wife beater. You should be called what it is. If you can't hear the problem, you can't deal with the problem. So I'm not sure, Carmen, how enthusiastic I am about coming up with a name to make people comfortable. The idea of a strike is to make people uncomfortable. And I don't think giving it a flowery name is going to change anything when things really get going. And we need people to get involved. But again, I'm open to the idea. I don't know how enthused I am, about it. But at the end of the day, I need it done. Whatever it takes to get it done, short of violence, fair enough.
Okay, so Carmen suggests that Russell Goldman could sponsor a piano concert to help raise funds for the yellow lights, so to speak, in solitary. Now, I don't know whether Russell would be able to sponsor a piano concert, but since he knows a lot of people who play the piano, he might be able to organize a piano concert.
Absolutely. Organizing, yeah.
In that way.
Concerts and other such things that can raise money, wonderful things. Wonderful things. Whatever it takes. Like I said, we're in the early stages of this. I am aware of people that want to do general strike. I'm not aware of anyone that's really getting into it, and it's frustrating. But if anyone wants to set up a concert to raise money, mazel tov. I'm all for that. I'll get my guitar right now. Done. Done. I would see if I can do my piano, but you probably don't want to hear that one. that wouldn't raise the money we're looking for.
So Carmen says, my point is I think we must use stealth until we are organized. Hence,
good point.
He recommends a code name for the general, or she recommends, a code name for the general strike.
That's a good point. Yeah. Again, I'm all for that, but we got to have an organizing committee, before we, come up with the rules of what we're going to call this, that, and the other. Yeah. So, but yeah, I can see that. That's a good point. Fair enough.
But so Russ has posted, an icon, which I can't see in the interface from StreamYard. So I don't know what the icon is. Hopefully,
surprise us then. Let's find out together.
It's a pleasant icon.
Well,
Orson Bradford says, the self-employed or unemployed can still help by participating in the community, the local economy, instead of the corporate economy. We can opt out of exploitative economy and into a sustainable one.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
The Green New Deal.
Every business is, if you go down the line, I would suspect you're going to find at least tangentially, connected to big business. You got to get supplies from somewhere. At some point, even a small business is enriching someone somewhere down the line. However, having said that, any local business, locally owned and resourced business that you can do business with, as opposed to the larger ones, that is pressure. That is money out of their pockets. Maybe not entirely out of their pockets, but it drastically lowers their profits.
It is.
So anything you can do along those lines is in solidarity. That is helping, 100%.
Right. And Carmen says, I dig your music, Geoff.
You're just making me feel so happy. Well, thank you very much, Carmen.
And Carmen says to Mr. Orson, spot on.
Indeed.
Which is fine.
And that's another thing. We got to think creatively. We got to think creatively. There's, as we were kind of alluding to in the beginning, we're talking about a general strike, but that's not the only thing that we need to do. It's just the one thing that truly, is within our power. And the only thing historically that has really changed the narrative, has changed the conditions, has threatened oligarchy sufficiently to change our circumstances. So all these other things that we can and should be doing are very important, but we have dropped the ball on our biggest H-bomb, and that's a general strike. That is mass exodus from the workforce for as long as it takes to bring them to their fucking knees, or at least to the negotiating table.
And of course, we have to recognize that in order to do a general strike and to win, a tremendous amount of organizational work has to go into that.
Yes.
So lots of other activities are contributing to that. Mm-hmm. So there's lots to do.
Yeah.
There's a tremendous amount to do. And we don't know how to do it all here. We don't even know how to conceptualize it all here.
No. The only thing I know for sure is that it needs to get done.
We need by creativity and bottom-up activity from everybody to join this.
Yeah.
Because there are myriad problems that are going to present themselves that we have to solve
Mm-hmm.
in getting the backup we need to do general strikes
Yeah.
and to do them on a continuing basis, which is what Geoff is suggesting.
Like one of the things everyone can do right now, is join a union or start a union. Just little things like that. Organize, talk to the people that you work with. Try to organize them, either as a loose, connection of people, like, hey, when we give the word, we walk, or organize them into a formalized union. If you're working in a particular industry that has solidarity with other industries, try to form all of you into one organized union. We've only got something like 6% unionization in this country in the private sector, and that's pathetic. So what we're talking about is a general strike. That's generally the purview of unions. So one of the things that we can do right now to start organizing is to start organizing unions. Join them if they exist locally in your area. Support them if they're not in your industry, like if you can't join, but pick their brains. How can you help them, and how can they help you organize another union, in another area? Even if you yourself never join a union, be someone who helps organize unions and communicate between unions. There's any number of things that we can do if we just think creatively and stop waiting for the idea, or stop waiting for the one person that's going to rally everyone. Fuck that. We've been waiting a long time. I would rather you take the first idea that comes to your mind that, you think is stupid, but how do you know it's stupid? Most people are the worst, at knowing a good idea from a bad idea when it comes from their own brains. They're too timid, they're too shy.
If it comes from our own brains, we fall in love with it.
That's not my experience. But, at the very least, just act upon an impulse, for God's sakes. We clearly, if you've got an idea and you love it, but you're not doing it, what good was it? Have an idea, go with it. Do something to enact it. Tell someone else. You don't have to be the hero. Someone else will be the hero. I don't care. At the end of the day, I want Medicare for all. I would have been happy to have Donald Trump sign Medicare for all. We can impeach the motherfucker after we get Medicare for all.
Me too. I would have been happy if he had signed a bill for Medicare for all or sponsored.
Yeah, that would have been fine, because we would have had the damn thing. We could have gotten rid of him afterwards. I have no intention of ever not knowing who that man is. But if he's in that position and he's got the pen and he's going to sign it, fucking let him sign it and imprison his ass afterwards. Don't, these things these politicians do, we can't let the Democrats have a win. Fuck you, Democrats, Republicans. We're Americans. We're the ones suffering and dying.
And we're the ones who need a win.
Yes, we need the win.
Who cares?
We should be done talking about
$2,000 a month checks.
Yes.
And we're not getting them.
We should be done talking about Nancy Pelosi. We should be done talking about AOC and the squad. They all suck, from either a little bit to a massive amount. And we can, if we wanted to waste more time, we could wax philosophical about, well, Nancy Pelosi sucks this much, but AOC only about that much, But yes, they all suck. Some of them are awesome in their own ways, but fuck, at the end of the day, we need Medicare for all. And every time we take up energy talking about people, in power, as opposed to what we're going to do about those people in power, we are the ones who are losing. It feels great to scream on Twitter, you fucker, you did not do what I told you to do. But at the end of the day, you didn't get anything for that tweet. You want to be able to scream at someone. You want to be able to get out that kind of energy and aggression. Organize a general strike. So you will be able to take to the streets and you will be able to scream, and you'll have to stay there for a long time. And when you get to go home, someone else takes your place. So there's always a consistent million people outside the White House. Not the same million people all the time. We got 360 million people. I'm sure we could organize 10 million people, and have a million people just constantly coming and going and coming and going, so that the pressure never fucking ends outside the White House. But everyone gets a break.
Yes, and it never ends outside of Congress.
Yes.
It's not simply the White House.
Fine. 2 million people and fine. 2 million people. And we got 20 million people out of 360 who are willing to interchange, with another couple of 100,000 in each state to go outside state houses and governor's mansions, and outside in New York City, outside Fox News and MSNBC and CNN. Fuck you all. It's time that we run the conversation, that we rise up. I'm telling you, look around. Do you feel like you're winning? Nothing else has worked. We keep chasing our tails. We got to win this election, then we got to win that election. We can't stand up for bold progressive policies now because we'll lose the midterms and this, that, and the other. Oh! And we keep losing the important things.
On this now, we have to start on this now, especially because Joe Biden has gotten elected, and Nancy Pelosi is reelected, as the Speaker of the House. And with those two in there, we need something to really generate some continuous pressure on them all the time. We got to be top of mind with them all the time, so they don't have time to pay attention to their donors.
Yes, exactly.
It would be that big.
Joe Biden was trying to sell to the American people, isn't it going to be wonderful to have a president you won't have to be thinking about every day? That's not a good thing. That is not a good thing.
As a matter of fact, he is the kind of president we have to be thinking about every day. Because we got to watch him carefully.
Yeah.
He's going to do all kinds of things behind our backs if we don't.
100%. No one gets a free ride. No one gets the benefit of any kind of doubt. It drives me crazy, just in my district here in New Jersey 3rd, to have people, like Andy Kim. Congratulations on your new office, Andy. That's important.
Yeah.
In what world did him getting a bigger office, move the needle on fucking anything? That's not important. That is completely unimportant. And he's reading that, thinking, well, they think I'm doing a good job. Look at this office. No one gets a free ride. None of them are your friends. Not a single one. I don't care if you knew them in high school and you would consider them a friend. As soon as they take that oath of office, they are your public servants. And they are to do the will of the people, or they are to go away.
That's it. They
and with that,
the will of the people, or they need to go away.
Yeah.
Carmen says, the courageous Jeffrey Ginter.
Well,
that corrupt politician, a new one, and went viral.
Yeah, that's a moment I'll be running away from for my whole life. But again, I gotta take exception with the word courageous, Carmen. I wasn't afraid. I'm not afraid of doing this. I'm not afraid of MacArthur. I have no fear of speaking in public. There was nothing I did that was courageous. I want to be clear about that. Even if someone thinks it was, because maybe they feel like they couldn't do it themselves. Okay, but that again, I was not courageous. I myself, I just did what I did. I do what I do. It's what I always do. I generally don't think before I do. But I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so we got a question, from Orson Bradford.
Yeah.
Any thoughts about the ongoing strike in India?
That's an interesting question because, again, one of the things that we're going to have to do once we, take care of things nationally, it should be clear to everyone by now that the oligarchy is international. that we actually do need to hold solidarity with workers in other countries. The jobs that we lose to other places because they can pay them pennies on the dollar, and export our pollution to some other country. One of the reasons that China is, under a cloud of smoke all the time is because we had them build all our shit. All the manufacturing jobs that we don't do here anymore that was polluting our atmosphere and, spoiling our resources. We said, you know what? Do your atmosphere bad and, use your natural resources and ship all their finished products here. We have to hold solidarity with them. They need working conditions. They need environmental conditions. They need pay that's commensurate with a living, dignified lifestyle. So when they strike in India, we may not be in a position to support them right now the way I would like, but if we actually start organizing in solidarity nationally, the natural extension of that is to make it international solidarity. So that big business can't just simply pick up roots and go somewhere else and abuse someone else in our name. Because every iPhone you buy, their abuse is done in your name.
Yes, and it should be an aspect of a general strike as well. That if they leave and they go to other countries, one of our demands has to be they won't be able to sell their goods here.
Yeah, or they're no longer an American company. If you want to, set up your main office in Ireland because you get a better tax break over there, it's fine. But you're an Irish company now. You don't get any benefits, that an American company would get. Goodbye, sayonara. You want them to leave. And again, it's not about needing their money. Joe and I understand, as most people on this podcast understand, it's not about needing their money. It is about economic justice. It is about solidarity with other working people in other countries. It's not about us missing their tax dollars. I'm actually on board. I think it was Randy that would like to cut corporate taxes because it incentivizes productivity. We have to start realizing where the federal government gets its money from. It creates it. So we don't need their money, but we do need them acting in a moral and fair fashion, which means they cannot just simply pack up and go somewhere else, and abuse other workers and, despoil other natural environment areas and expect that they're going to be able to make a profit off of that by selling their goods here. We don't want your goods.
Right. And so Carmen has a thought on that also, and it is we got to do something before they try to rename that destructive TPP and destroy our planet in many more nations, including this one.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to TPP, I'm not an expert on that one, but everything that I have read that I trust, says that has at least as much to do with boxing in China, with allowing them to have hegemony in that area of the world. We want to have hegemony everywhere. We want to have control everywhere. And TPP was less so much a corporate giveaway as it was a means of controlling China and boxing them in so they don't have hegemony.
From the government's point of view, it was that. But from the point of view of the private sector, of course, it was about having protections for our businesses abroad.
Yes.
So they could sue foreign governments for lost profit.
Oh, God, that was a huge one.
The foreign governments tried to protect their own people from the American companies.
Yeah.
That's what the TPP was about from the standpoint of the business.
Of private business, yes.
Right. Okay. And by the way, at this point, I should mention that I've written a book on the TPP, and it's called Declarations of Dependence. And so to give you the commercial, if you go to Amazon, sorry to mention Amazon, it is there as a Kindle ebook.
Well, until such time as we can bring mom and pop bookstores back.
Or
Yeah.
until such time as we can get the publishers to publish books for the mom and pop stores.
Absolutely.
These days the publishers just want to have guaranteed sales for books.
Mm-hmm.
So the only people who get to write books, okay, are actually people who have had bestsellers already.
Yeah, it's got a lot of parallels with the music industry. In order to really make money off of it, you have to have already made money off of it.
Yes.
Springsteen will always make money off of his music. Madonna will always make money off of her music. But starting off today, you have to give it away for free just to be able to get the attention and try to make your money off merchandising and live shows. And welcome COVID. So no more merch and no more live shows. So what can you do?
And let's see. And Carmen says, put your books on your Patreon link.
There you go.
I think I can put them on my Patreon link.
I think you should. If you haven't already, I think you definitely should.
That's a problem. Yes, I haven't been keeping my Patreon link up too much. I started out, of course, when I got onto Patreon at first, I was blogging, and writing books. And I thought I was going to continue to do that. But then I fell in love with live streaming. Here I am live streaming. And as you know, folks, the live streaming keeps me pretty damn busy. I'm absorbing all kinds of stuff every day. I mean, there have to be 15 articles that go into any one of my shows. I might not be talking about 15 articles in the shows, but I'm going through 15 articles to get to the ones I want to use in the shows.
Well, thank God for COVID. Now you have an excuse to stay home and read articles.
I didn't need an excuse. That's what I was doing beforehand. So COVID hasn't been that much of a change for me.
No, but it's an excuse.
Yeah, it is an excuse.
It's an excuse you can sell. Anyway, Joe, I actually got to go. I got to go to bed.
I know you do, Geoff.
The time has come. I got to get up really early for work.
Okay, so thank you for coming. It has been a wonderful session.
My pleasure.
And we got to do it again soon.
I'm looking forward to it.
Because we miss these. And we don't have any technical problems, it turns out.
This worked out great.
So that would be great. Yeah, it would be great. How would you feel about if we can find others interested in the general strike topic?
Let's bring it on.
How would you feel about being on a panel show?
Love it. Would absolutely love it. Whatever I can contribute. Again, I just want to get the damn thing done. As far as I'm concerned, I'm in the fight to end the fight. I want to end the struggle. I don't want to perpetuate it any longer. So if that means ramping it up, bringing that fever to a pitch so that we can break the virus and bring it down, I'm down with it. Enough suffering, enough gratuitous.
So which virus are you talking about now? The COVID virus?
No, I'm saying
oligarchy virus.
I'm talking about the oligarch virus. Yes.
Okay.
The neoliberal virus.
Yes, the deadly virus that's been killing us for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And that killed us during this COVID crisis too. Yeah. Why are things so bad in the United States?
How much time do you got?
Well, I don't know, but I generally compare us to New Zealand and Taiwan.
Oh, you must be crying yourself to sleep at night looking at those numbers comparisons.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. I really am. And I don't know why the people who are running the government aren't crying themselves to sleep about that. I mean, the comparison, it's just terrible for them. It sets them off as completely evil people.
Well, they only listen to Rachel Maddow, and I don't know Rachel Maddow talks about New Zealand numbers.
No, she doesn't talk about New Zealand numbers or Taiwan numbers or even about Australian numbers.
No, why would they? Yep.
Okay, Geoff. So good night. I'm going to take you out of the stream, and thank you very much for coming.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me, Joe.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so Geoff has done great, as he always does. Carmen says, thank you, Geoff. Stay safe. Awesome live stream. Get a post office so we can communicate with you without having to use the media, or social media, rather. Question, is a general strike illegal in the United States? Troy, I don't know whether a general strike, is illegal. I think it depends upon what you're doing in the general strike. If you're just doing freedom of speech and assembly, I don't think it's illegal or not. If you're doing boycotts or things like that, there might be some illegal aspects of things like that. But we're going to have to explore that, because we're going to have to see what kind of tactics we use in a general strike and see whether those tactics are illegal or not. I suspect some of them will be, and a lot of them will not be. A lot of the things we do in a general strike would not be illegal at all. Of course, if we have any kind of success, it won't be long before the powers that be try to make it illegal. And so that is going to be a problem that we're going to have to cope with at some point. We have to remember that the people who did our successful movements over a period of time, those people, did illegal things at the start. Then they institutionalized their movements, in various ways. The people who were so active in the civil rights movement started interest groups of their own, think tanks of their own. They came to D.C. and they lived often in the nonprofit world. And they earned money in that world. And they institutionalized themselves over a period of time. And they became part of the oligarchy. What happened in the end is that the movements followed something called the iron law, of oligarchy, which essentially says when a movement starts an organization, it isn't too long before the organization begins to ossify. It's the bureaucracy aspect of it. It's the institutionalization aspect of it. It becomes necessary to financially support the institutionalized part of the movement, and in seeking the financial support, you always get people at the center who form an oligarchy in that sector of activity in society, and they become parts of the overall oligarchical ossification of society. How do we stop that? We can only stop that through having continuous bottom-up democracy all the time, so that we get circulation of leaders, continuous circulation of leaders coming from the bottom up. That's the only way to keep the society dynamic. It's the only way to keep it an adaptive society. It's the only way to keep it actually delivering justice over any sustainable period of time. To some degree, we had that going on from 1945 to 1970, but we lost it afterwards for various reasons, which are a matter of the historical record. So Steve Wolfbrand says, I'm thinking of canceling my Tim Black Patreon and switching it to Doc Joe. Tim is losing me and coming on way too late. Well, I don't want to say anything against Tim Black. I often watch him. I enjoy his show. But on the other hand, I would certainly welcome any contribution that you can make to what I'm doing, Steve. That is important to me. So Troy says, General strike equals not working / refusing to work. It equals that for some people who are in a position to general strike and who can have good effects with their striking. But for others, it means working, continuing to work, so you can contribute aid of various kinds to the general strikers. In a sense, it's the general strikers who were spearheading the whole movement. But in order to function in that way, they need support from the foundation of the movement, which is all those people who are working, who still contribute to the economy in some way, and who are getting the funds necessary to support the strikers. Carmen says, left him years ago because he wasn't receptive to Steve G's MMT tutelage. Oh, you mean Tim Black? Yes, well, what he wasn't actually receptive to, I think. Well, maybe not to Steve. I mean, I'm not going to say anything about Steve, who, by the way, is evidently very sick in the hospital tonight. Okay, he went to the emergency room today, and we all must say to him that we're pulling for him, and we hope that he has a speedy recovery from COVID. But it is looking very serious right now. Steve says, how is Grumbine? Any updates? I just have given you all the update that I have, okay, at this moment. General strikes starting inauguration day. I doubt that, and the reason why I don't believe that will actually start then is because I don't see a movement actually preparing to support a general strike. We need to have a movement that's supporting it in order to sustain it and keep it going. There has to be resources put by, okay, in order to do that. Okay, says, hope he's doing better. So do I. Carmen says, worse in the hospital, but I think he said his breathing is improving just this evening. Well, that is very good because he seemed to be having problems this afternoon. He had problems with oxygen. His oxygen readings were in the 80s at that time, evidently. Steve says 365,620. Is that what the Worldometer site is saying? Steve Gonzo. Steve Wolfram said Jimmy had Grumbine on his show a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, I know he had. I thought Steve did a very good job with Jimmy. Steve Wolfbrand says, damn. Yeah, damn. Damn. Okay, so what I'd like to end with tonight is to go through a tweet storm that I had today. I'm just going to go quickly through that. There were 21 tweets in it. And first, one, the hashtag replace Pelosi Jan 3 and bargain with other speaker candidates to then force the vote plus get more changes campaign was drowned out by the FTV movement. The FTV is the force the vote movement, of course. But today, the FTV people on the ground in D.C. are condemning squad votes for Pelosi. Way too little and way too late. By the way, I think I'm going to leave this link in the stream in one of my comments. Carmen says, yeah, tweet storm. comment says, "Where's Bonnie Boo?" Hi, beloved. And so let me go back to the tweet storm then after I leave the link to it. I left you a reader. I left you the link, the thread reader link, so you can see the whole thing easily. But a more important one. Oh, I said, have to go back to the first tweet, finish it off. Okay. Today, the FTV people on the ground in D.C. are condemning squad votes for Pelosi. I said, way too little and way too late, because all you heard from them on the first days was force the vote on Medicare for all. But nothing about the importance of the squad blocking Pelosi. That was what we were doing. Two, but a more important one, is that the squad felt free to decide how to vote on Pelosi without consulting the people's movement. These advocates of bottom-up democracy did not practice it at all when it came to the most important decision they would make during the next 2 years. Three, they're not the only ones, of course. Bernie Sanders did the same thing when he dropped out of the presidential race. I spelled the presidential wrong. That was a typo. I know how to spell presidential, folks. His, quote, "not me, us movement." What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing here. What I need to do is to share this one with you. Since I've got it on the Thread Reader app, it's very easy to share. So let's get it in there. Let's make sure. There I am, and there you are. And unfortunately, you get to see the commercials there, but we'll skip by them as we go down. So, three, they're not the only ones, of course. Bernie Sanders did the same thing when he dropped out of the presidential race. His, quote, "not me, us" movement suddenly turned into an, quote, "it's my decision alone," unquote, affair. That enraged me at the time. It still does. After extracting all that, tweet 4, work and money, often from poor people, he didn't feel he had to consult with anyone else, but at most his inner circle, about whether it was time to support Biden or not. Going beyond progressive leaders, quote unquote, however, I think all our politicians in our democracy, quote unquote, feel free to take 5, the 5th tweet now, support of all sorts from us without involving us in decisions they are taking that are critical to our lives. Very few of them talk the bottom-up democracy, but even those who do practice top-down democracy, in which they mobilize us for fundraising and for coming out to vote for, 6th tweet, them. But when there is that big issue to weigh in on, we don't hear from them asking about what they ought to do and why. What percent of squad supporters do you suppose wanted them to vote to re-elect Nancy Pelosi and her team of oligarchs to lead the Democratic Party in the House? 5%? 2%? Yeah, Pelosi's general support among the population is 20% of Americans. That's the 7th tweet. But among the progressive movement people who contributed so much to squad elections, I'd be surprised if even 2% think she's done a good job. Yet the squad felt free to vote for her. Ridiculous. Anyway, my point here is that the left, tweet 8, needs to develop two-way communication channels people can use easily and rapidly to influence decision-making of elected leaders on a daily, continuous basis. The lobbyists for big money are there every day in Congress, grabbing mind share of the representatives. But people are not. We, the people, are not there every day. That has to change, number 9. Take the speaker election issue. The day after the election was over, Pelosi began lining up her people for her the re-election fight. I did a bonehead play in this particular tweet. I should have said the day after the general election was over, Nancy Pelosi began to line up her people for her re-election fight. But where were we on November 4th? Were we lining up the enhanced squad to oppose her? We wanted Medicare for all in the worst way. Were we telling the squad what we wanted and that we would not, number 10, tolerate a leader who had said we would never get it, who was also opposed to the Green New Deal, free college, student debt elimination, paid family leave, expanded Social Security, inexpensive housing, a job guarantee, a basic income, a house where floor votes are controlled by an oligarchy? No, we, number 11, ignored the upcoming leadership issue or procedural issues in Congress or others important to our futures and focused on Trump, COVID, stimulus checks, and Biden's cabinet. All understandable, but inattentive to what was around the next corner that would shape the next 2 years. Number 12, the progressive movement needs a way of anticipating key votes and mobilizing to influence them way before they happened. We all knew the vote for Speaker was coming. We knew Pelosi was weak. We knew she was opposed to most of what our movement wanted. So why the hell did we wait to mobilize until a bit more than 2 weeks before and more than a month after conversations started between Pelosi and progressives in Congress? And why the hell did we then mobilize around a policy issue that wasn't even going to come up until after key issues of institutional, number 14, power were settled that were going to have a profound effect on the key policy issues we cared about? These failures were ours, but also the failures of the squad and other progressives. After all, when those convos started, the squad and the CPC leaders could have been transparent. They could have alerted us to the beginning of bargaining. They could have asked for our views. They could have done their part in getting us involved with a process that was going to affect our lives. It's not on us for not being alert and demanding they do so, but it's on them for not including us in the process. So for the future, there are some things we need to do. We need to make our reps understand that they owe us both transparency plus inclusiveness in their decision-making if they want volunteers and funding. Second, we must slow down on contributing either work or funds to them until they acknowledge error in voting for Pelosi and promise transparency plus inclusiveness in the future. Third, we must continue to pressure them to force a floor vote on hashtag MFA and other key issues in the House. Fourth, we must pressure them to change the rules again, to completely eliminate hashtag PayGo, and even more importantly, to adopt a new rule of the House that will trigger automatic floor votes for any bill that gets 20 co-sponsors in the House. Such a rule is of enormous importance because it would do a great 19 deal to democratize the House by reducing the power of the Speaker and the committee chairs to determine what gets to the floor and what does not. By the way, if such a rule had been in place in 2019, hashtag MFA would long since have gotten a floor vote in the House. If the right rule had been passed at the beginning of the last term, we wouldn't have needed this protest for a floor vote in the House on Medicare for all. We would have had one long since. 20. And finally, fifth, the movement needs to set up its own early warning system for key votes likely to come before Congress. Perhaps that's a service that hashtag MPP, the Movement for a People's Party, of course, could do for the movement, increasing its own credibility, and would set it up as a center of resistance to the oligarchy. So that's a proposal for MPP. Are you listening, Nick Brana? And 21, by the way, in other words, I said finally in 20, but then I had another thought. 21, by the way, a good way for the squad to acknowledge its errors in lack of transparency and inclusiveness towards their base would be for them to file a motion to hashtag vacate the chair, hashtag force the vote. C, and then I give a link to Ballotpedia, which I am going now to give to you here in the comments. And Ballotpedia gives the history of motions to vacate the chair. That rule still exists, in Congress. It's been used some in recent years to threaten speakers, and was one of the things that drove John Boehner out, that the Tea Party caucus used, the Freedom Caucus, I should say, to drive him out. Paul Ryan tried to change that rule and get rid of its teeth. And the Freedom Caucus said, no way that happened. So Paul Ryan gave up trying to do that. He became Speaker anyway for a while. The Freedom Caucus never subjected him to vacate the chair. But the vacate the chair rule gives us a chance to undo the damage that was done the other day. Gives us a chance to do that. So there's the link. And let me go back once more to that final thread. By the final tweet, I should say. By the way, a good way for the squad to acknowledge its errors and lack of transparency and inclusiveness towards their base would be for them to file a motion to hashtag vacate the chair. If they did that, it would put Nancy Pelosi on warning. I doubt that motion would be successful, but it would put her on warning. And she would know the arrogance, the entitlement, and the stupidity that she routinely exhibits has to stop, or her days are not going to end. Early in 2023. She may not be the speaker at all for too many more months if she screws up again the way she did in passing the CARES Act. You all know how I feel about the CARES Act and the money cannon for the rich, and not enough relief for everybody else. That was Nancy Pelosi's doing as much as Mitch McConnell's doing. And that kind of bonehead play has to stop, or she has to go. I think she should just go unconditionally, but I don't think they're ready to do that yet. But they should certainly do a vacate the chair on her if she screws up again. And by the way, she only screwed up that time because she failed to consult anybody else in the goddamn House. The House wasn't in session at the time. She called them back in to vote for a fait accompli. But she and Mitch created the fait accompli. And she consulted no one outside of her small group. Awful. oligarch. The House is an oligarchy. She is the chief oligarch. That, more than any other, is a reason why she has to go. Okay, back to your comments. Steve says, Trump supporters are attacking the D.C. police at this moment. That might be very important, because the D.C. police are going to hit back. And I don't think the Trump supporters are going to do very well. And Kate Clark Ryan says, Savannah hasn't been counted yet. It's a blue spot. I'm going to read some stuff here. Okay, I guess I caught most everything up to about Yes, Tweet Storm was the last one. And Russ says, I've got to call it a night. Good night, Russ. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. Steve Wolfbrand says, Georgia. Kate says, Congress needs Nina. Steve says, both runoffs, 51-49 for the Republicans. Oh, great. You'll see how popular General Strikes get if Mitch McConnell is the majority leader again. Steve Wolfbrand says, shit. Really? Sean O'Brien says, worst day to do it. It would be completely ignored by the media. Kay says, there are many more votes to be counted. Carmen says, gotta be rigged. Cheating. Steve says 42% counted. Okay, so if 42%, only 42% are counted, then most likely the big cities are not in. It's doubtful Fulton County is in. It's doubtful Cobb County is in. As someone here has mentioned, Savannah hasn't been counted yet. Generally speaking, if they're counting the day of first, what will happen is the rural counties will come in first. One of the reasons why they will is because the polling places are not so crowded. So they're voting live today. If those votes are being counted, of course the Republicans are winning in Georgia. But many more votes were mail-in votes. They were absentee votes. If those are being counted last, which I suspect is what's happening, there still may be a flood of Democratic votes there. That 51-49 statistic you just quoted at me, that might actually be very good for the Democrats. Because if the rural areas came in first and the Dems are only behind by 51-49 in the rural vote, it looks to me like it might be a sweep. Now, I don't know. Yeah, I haven't looked at it. You have to check me on what areas are coming in first. I don't know. Carmen says, thanks for the info. Carmen says, important link. Steve Gonzo says, Trump supporters are attacking the D.C. police at this moment. Kay says, already, Steve. Joe Rogan has done some great work on aliens with Bob Lazar and others. Check it out. Also watch the doc, The Phenomenon, free on YouTube. Carmen says, precisely what Cheeto wanted. Proud Boys in D.C. tonight have absolutely zero treat experience, no gear, and no situational awareness of police tactics. They keep walking into obvious kettles and getting maced and arrested by the cops. The National Guard was called into D.C. by the mayor. And Carmen Muniz says, vacate the seat. So get your ass out, Piglosi. Oh, gee, that's so undignified, Carmen. Don't you know that it's pay-go-see? Pay-go-see? Hashtag pay-go-see? We don't want to be vulgar about this, do we? Troy Foundland says, I'm listening more than commenting tonight. My brain is half fried on Irish Gaelic conjugations. Oh, pretty cool, Troy. Steve Wolfbrand says, Georgia are going to be close. How can you tell if you don't know where those 42% of the votes are coming from, Steve? Where did they come from? If they came from the right places, that 51 to 49 could be a great result for Democrats. And Carmen Muda says, oh, but she got the pig head. She did. She got the pig head at her house. That's funny. Really funny. Okay, folks, I got to end the broadcast now. Thank you very much for coming, for staying, and for carrying on such a nice conversation tonight. It was very good for me and for Geoff and for all of us. And I hope you liked my tweet storm.
I enjoyed all Carmen's comments.
And Bonnie said she enjoyed all of Carmen's comments.
Thank you.
Steve, she said, thank you. And Steve Wolfbrand said 180 days to government disclosure. Okay, on aliens, it's in the bill. Dolores Pierce says, thank you and good night. And thank you, Dolores. I hope your family has a speedy recovery and that things go well for you. And Troy says, pay lousy since she didn't get us any more stimulus than what she did. And Carmen says, thank you for having us. It was a treat. And Troy says, hi, Bonnie. Kay says, thank you all for another great discussion. I love you all. And we love you, Kay. And Troy says, beside every good Joe is a great Bonnie. Certainly beside this one, there is a great Bonnie. Carmen says, thank you, Bonnie. I'm humbled and honored.
Oh, that's sweet.
And Bonnie says, oh, that's sweet, Carmen. And Steve says, that Senate Budget Committee chairman, Senator at Bernie Sanders of Vermont, independent to you. Well, that would be if he was the Senate Budget Committee chairman. But whether he is or not will probably be determined by the outcome of tonight's election in Georgia. That doesn't work out right. He's only going to be the ranking member of the Senate Budget Committee. Steve Wolfbrand said, sweet dreams till sunbeams find you, birds singing in sycamore trees. Thank you, Steve. That's a great wish for tonight. Good night.